You hear it and see it all the time. You only need these 3 exercises. You only need these 5 exercises in your workout plan. So, is this really true? Is this really all you need? You have to first think about what is your goal. Because if you're missing out on your destination and you don't know exactly where you want to go, you're going to end up somewhere you don't want to be. So, if your goal is to get stronger, be in better shape, look better, and be pain free, be resilient to injury without any future injuries, and ultimately feel your best, does it check all those boxes? The answer is no, but it will make you stronger and it will make you look better, but it's at a cost and you'll be blinded to it until the damage has already been done. And in this video, I'm gonna prove that to you. And at the end, I'm gonna actually give you the real training plan that you should be implementing if you want all the things in your goal that we mentioned before, which is to feel better, be injury resilient, be stronger, and look better, and not ever having to sacrifice one for the other. Hi, my name is Seth, and after suffering from severe injuries from a car accident, I was told by doctors I would never lift weights again. I would never be pain-free, but I couldn't accept that. So for the last 10 years, I've been learning from experts and testing on myself on what I truly needed to do in order to recover, to rebuild myself so that I could actually live life without pain, so I wouldn't be in a disabled state anymore. And now I coach field ready strength, train for the day that you don't see coming, and help others become injury resilient and be the best version of themselves so that they never have to suffer from something like that. So let's talk about why these 3 exercise, 5 exercise, or basic amount of exercises are so popular right now and why they're so attractive. Well, one, they're super simple. Anybody can start them and easily remember them. It's easy to stay consistent, which is the key to getting your results, and you will get stronger when you are consistently practicing them, which means that you'll also get better shape and you'll look better and you will feel better to an extent because you're doing more than you were before. However, there is a catch to all this. It will slowly creep up on you without you even knowing. And here's why. It's because if you only focus on a few exercises that are very basic, you start to practicing them, you get very strong in them, but then you get weak in all the other areas that you don't train. These are gaps in your training and they will form weak links in your body. And you won't even realize it's there because your body is extremely good at adapting and compensating. So when other muscles are turned off, they're not engaging like they should, then your other muscles that shouldn't be doing the job are going to step in to do both their job and the other muscle's job. And so over time, this will give you actually bad movement patterns because your body is not working together like it should, just like an employee that may slack off and the A player may do their job and the others. However, once work piles up, they're not going to be able to do everything. And so that is when problems happen and mistakes get made. And it is the same with your body. That's what happens. And that's when you start to feel pain. And that good feeling that you had been feeling before now starts to fade. And by then, you've already ingrained these habits in your training. So now you have to reprogram how your body operates, and that is an uphill battle and takes a lot longer than just overnight. Now, most guys will think, well, I got bigger muscles, I'm stronger, and I'll be fine. But that exact belief is what gets most people hurt because that's not actually how strength works. Having more muscle doesn't necessarily mean that you have more strength because strength isn't stored inside the muscle. The muscle is only the vehicle, and the driver of that vehicle is your brain or the nervous system. Because if having more muscle automatically made you the strongest, then that means that bodybuilders would always be the strongest person in the room. However, there are many people who are stronger than people that are twice their size because the strength comes from the movements that they practice. And when they practice them repeatedly and effectively with good form, then their nervous system was able to fire those muscle fibers at the exact timing that they should be firing in order to generate the most amount of force and strength. So just like you have an engine, if it has a misfiring cylinder and it's not firing at the rate that it should, then you're going to lose out on compression and power loss, and your horsepower of your vehicle is automatically going to go down. So it is the same with your nervous system is the firing rate, and your muscles are just the mechanical components that it's using in order to generate that force. And if you ask a bodybuilder to do a exercise that they've never done before, such as a power clean or a snatch, and they're lifting the barbell all the way over their head, even though they have the muscle, the mechanics that they're able to do it, they're not going to be able to do that lift effectively or as with the greatest strength and the greatest weight that they could without practicing. The person who is half their size is going to be able to outperform them because they train the movement pattern and not just grew bigger muscles. So if you only train 3 exercises or 5 exercises, you may be hitting all of the muscle groups that you need to in order to get bigger and stronger, but the movements themselves, you're only going to be strong in those 3 or 5 movements that you practice regularly. And all the other movements that you make in your life, in the real world, you're going to be weak in, and those are going to be your weak links. And that is where you're going to develop aches, pains, and get injured because you never trained those different movement patterns. And it isn't just the movements that you're missing, it's the direction of the load that's being applied. Where is the direction of the force that you are trying to control? Because understanding this will change the way that you think about every single gym tool you've ever seen. I see so many videos about you only need a kettlebell, only dumbbells, only your body weight, calisthenics. And while you can get stronger with anything that you're using or nothing at all, if you know how to train effectively, but there is one key element that you're completely missing, and that's the direction of force being applied. When you look at a barbell, the barbell is one of the greatest tools for developing strength because it's teaching your body to move well together to lift the highest load possible, but also with not using so much stabilization like you would be using with a dumbbell. However, that barbell is going up and down. It's compressing on your spine. That force being applied is vertical. With dumbbells, though, you're able to move them unilaterally, which you can't do with the barbell. And that allows you to not compensate the weak links that you've been hiding, maybe with the barbell, with one side being weaker than the other. You also have to stabilize it more, even with something as simple as a dumbbell press. So there is an advantage over the barbell. But then there is something like a kettlebell, where now if you're doing a kettlebell swing, instead of the weight being compressed on you, it's actually pulling away from you. Think about if you have a dog on a leash and then all of a sudden it sees a squirrel and jumps off to the corner, it's gonna grab your arm and pull it. And if you're not prepared for that type of load, that force, then that is going to be a point that you get injured. Functional trainers are a great piece of equipment that most people underutilize. And it's because you can change the height of the pulley And so that allows you to change the load of any direction on the access point. So this can help you plug the weak links that you may have been hiding. So as you can see, there are many different tools. You can perform the same exact exercise with a different tool, and that will provide a different angle of force being applied, making you strong in a different way, preparing you for all the unexpected things that might happen in your life. Of course, there are different stances you can have, such as a bilateral stance when you do a lunge or a split squat. And then there are lateral loads and rotational loads as well. In construction, they say that safety is not an accident because most injuries can be prevented. However, coaches also agree that most injuries can be prevented as well. And the way to do that is through plugging your weak links through your training program. So there are not just 3 or 5 exercises that you need. There is actually 7 different categories and 25 movement patterns that you should be doing weekly, and some of them you rotate every other week. These movement patterns are so important because these are the positions that you're going to have to deal with as a human being who lives in their life. So getting strong in all these different areas is important. And most people that hear that list think it's extremely big and it seems impossible. But not all these you're putting into a strict 3-set type of workout plan, but rather certain ones you focus on because those are your weak links and you strengthen those. Other ones, you may just be in a maintenance where you want to hit those certain ranges just in a warm-up or a nightly stretch or something in your life in order to keep your nervous system sharp, that you know how to access those ranges in the correct way and maintain strength in those positions. I'm not gonna go through all of them in this video. However, I will leave a link in the description on another video I went over describing them. And I will also leave a link in the description to a movement checklist where you can look it over and actually look and diagnose which ones you're missing, because chances are those are your weak links and an area that you may get injured in the future when something unexpected happens. For years, I thought it was just the car accidents that caused my injuries, but actually my weak links that I've been having in my training up until that point made everything worse. It made my injuries worse. It made my recovery worse. It made my nervous system go haywire and flare up rigorously because of the weak links I had in my training. And I trained functional as a bodybuilder, but I was still missing so much. And if I didn't go through with what I went through, I would have never developed the understanding of how to prevent future injuries and actually bulletproof your body how it should. So in a way, I'm grateful, but I also don't want other people to end up with that type of situation, because I was just only one little thought away from giving up and living disabled for the rest of my life, because that's what doctors said I should be doing, is the way to manage the pain versus actually learning how to recover and get better. One thing I realized is that the fitness space is completely overwhelming when there is no direction. Everything is overhyped. Do this, try this. This is the only thing you need. No, this is the only thing you need. Like a whole bunch of grade schoolers are arguing on the playground. However, what you need is not necessarily more information. The good thing about the 3 exercise or 5 exercise system is that it can help you start becoming consistent, because that consistency is where your results lie. But if you stay in that one area for too long, just know that you're going to get stronger in one area, but you're also going to develop weak links in the other. Just like a kindergartner does not go in and learn multiplication right away. They learn how to count first, and then then addition and subtraction, and then they'll learn multiplication and division. So there is a stepping ladder that you have to climb. Same thing with a juggler. They'll start with a few balls to juggle to get the rhythm, and then they'll start throwing in another one and another one and another one, and then they're able to juggle a lot more. That's how I do so much, not only in my training, but also all the daily habits that I have in my life. You have to start with a simple plan and become consistent, but you don't just stay there. You improve, you get better. So the knowledge is not as important as the way to implement it, the system, the blueprint. What do I focus on now? And what do I focus on in the next step? And that's what we do here at Forged Man of Iron. We teach you how to actually understand the fundamentals so that you can develop a more sophisticated training plan so you can hit all the goals that you want to and never having setbacks due to injuries that could have been prevented. Train every single direction and leave no weak link. Hit subscribe.